few years ago, I made a video on hydraulic versus kinetic splitters, and since then, I have a new, much bigger hydraulic splitter. I am a new, much smaller human being, and the video was a little cringy, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to redo it. This is my Wolf Ridge Pro 28C. It's a hydraulic splitter. I also own a super splitter, kinetic splitter, but it's 500 miles away on our property in Kentucky. This is gonna be tough. Or is it? This is a kinetic style log splitter, and the way it works is off centrifugal force. There are two cast iron flywheels inside here. When you pull up on this lever, it discharges this ram and retracts it back in. The kinetic style is undoubtedly faster, has a faster cycle time, I should say. It is probably about 2 seconds, where my hydraulic splitter, and that's a big professional grade hydraulic splitter, is about 8 seconds. Might be 3 and 9, 2 and 8, I don't know, but somewhere in there. Where I think we go wrong with this is assuming it's 4 times as fast. But if you watch when I split, you push a log through, you often have to flip it over and push it through again just to get it in half. And then it takes 2 more passes to get it into quarters. Where with the Wolf Ridge, with a 4-way splitter on it, you push it through. You could put a 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever you want. You have all kinds of wedges, as is the case for most hydraulic splitters. It really cuts down on your time splitting. Let's take a look at some of the Hydro's features. Both splitters actually have a push plate and push the wood through a wedge. This hydraulic splitter has a log lift. It also has a hydraulic adjustable wedge, so you can make this wedge go up and down. It's available as a single wedge. You can get a 4-way, 6, 8, 10, 12, 4 million. There's lots of different options for wedges. This one has a large sorting table, and it has these, I call them grizzly bars on the end, extended sorting table that helps some of the junk and debris fall through. It's got a large hydraulic tank. The large capacity helps keep the fluid cold. These are even available with a hydraulic fluid cooler, big fan like a radiator, and it pushes the fluid through there and cools it down. This is a Honda gas engine on it, very similar to the kinetic splitter as well. A lot of the features are the same. One of the things I like about this is its large wheels and large wheel width, I guess axle width. So this is very stable when towing it. With the larger wheels, bearings, things like that, I would not have a problem towing this down the road, just not very far. This brand, Wolf Ridge in particular, as do many other manufacturers, make these available in a road legal or road worthy package. They have fenders, they have leaf springs on them, suspension, things like that make them more appropriate to tow them at higher speeds. To my knowledge, a kinetic splitter, there are none on the market that you can tow. You'd have to put them on a trailer. On the other hand, if I were to tow this to my property in Kentucky, I would never do that behind the splitter. It would 100% be put on a trailer. This is a big machine to get on a trailer. I can put it behind a side-by-side tractor. I can even strap it and pick it up. When I get to the other end, if you don't take the machine it's hooked to with you, I've got to figure something out there. With the kinetic splitter, I can simply roll it off by hand. Bob's your uncle. The kinetic splitter has small wheels, which in some cases is good. If you want to put it in your garage, you want to put it in a shed, you're towing it down narrow trails through the woods, things like that. Around here in Kentucky, it's perfect, and we keep it in a shipping container. You could even turn the fuel line off and flip this thing up in the air if, space is tight. So they're convenient that way, but you could never tow this thing down the road. I mean, I suppose you could, but I wouldn't go over, 10 or 15 miles an hour. It's just not designed to be towed down the road. If you need to put this on a trailer and move it somewhere, this is ideal. I mean, the front end of this just weighs almost nothing. I could almost push it up the tailgate of a trailer by myself, and you couldn't do that with the Wolf Ridge. Any hydraulic splitter, they're much heavier, much bigger, which is good in a lot of cases, but to get it on and off a trailer, you would need, a tractor, a winch, put it behind your 4-wheeler, something like that, a garden tractor to get it onto the trailer. I suppose cost is a factor as well. This is about a $10,000 splitter. and rising. You could spend upwards of $30,000, $40,000 on some of these splitters if you want. The Kinetic ones are more of what I would call an entry-level splitter, and I know they do make quite a few less expensive hydraulic splitters. When you have something this big and this expensive, this pushes huge oak rounds through just like their styrofoam. That's something you can't do with the Kinetic splitter, and you also can't do it with box store splitters, you know, your $2,000, $3,000 box store splitters. I guess the point is, if you have a need for that kind of power, it's something that you can't get in a Kinetic splitter. Now, Super Splitter, which is the brand I do, makes an HD model. Mine is not. Has bigger flywheels, but I can tell you from experience, big, gnarly hardwood, oak rounds, things like that on a Kinetic splitter just don't work as well as you'd like them to. Single knife, you know, you can get it done, chipping away off the side. Plenty of guys do, but boy, there is nothing like just sending anything you want through a splitter like this. There is no anxiety, no worry. It just handles it. You got to be a little craftier with the Kinetic splitters. Not to say it can't be done or that you can't noodle them ahead of time. As far as big, heavy stuff, that's where these big professional grade hydraulic splitters really shine. That's where it really pulls apart and creates a gap. So Super Splitter makes what I think most would agree is the highest end of the Kinetic log splitters. But they're about $3,500 at the time I bought this one. This is not the HD model. You can get it in the standard or the HD, which is heavy duty, and you can get it in gas or electric. So there's several different options, but it costs about a third what a big professional hydraulic splitter does. And if you went with a box store splitter, as many of you know, then your cycle time is even slower, the power is less, and then that gap between, you know, this and the big Wolf Ridge starts to close. Definitely something to think about. This is getting tough. I should have just brought one back so they're in the same place. I think production makes a big difference. We were at one point going to move. In my other video, my Kinetic versus hydraulic video, I have a much older hydraulic splitter. It was really good, had a lot of power. I think it was a Northern 201. I bought it off my neighbor. The thing was 40 years old, big, loud, smoky, leaky. I wound up selling it and buying the Kinetic splitter because we were moving to a property that was much smaller than where we're at now. We didn't have a wood boiler, at least wouldn't when we moved in, and the need for firewood was just in the fireplace, and I was going to put a wood stove in a much smaller shop than I have now. We chickened out. We love this place. We decided not to move, so here I was with this Kinetic splitter trying to split 20 cords of big gnarly rounds of oak, and then going to our property in Kentucky where we split firewood for campfires, and there's a couple wood stoves out there as well. I really needed something different for here, so I bought the Wolf Ridge here. It's been great. This is definitely a good choice for me here, but in Kentucky, where we have a lot of softwood, poplar, pine after the place was logged, a lot of small stuff, and we're just making campfire wood, it's awesome for there. And if the time ever comes where we want to split a bunch of wood stove wood instead of bringing it with us or just making it, you know, there's a lot of straight grain oak out there and stuff that goes fine through the Super Splitter, I can take this one with me. That probably happen once every other year, something like that. Mostly just screwing around, having some fun. It's an option. So here in Kentucky, this splitter is really ideal. Aside from the space savings that it provides, as well as the lower cost, because I don't use it every day, we had this property logged a few years ago. And so there's a lot of timber laying around. It's a lot of tops, things that the loggers didn't want, and trees fall over in the woods. But anything that was over 16 inches was harvested. So most of what we have here is smaller stuff, and there's not a lot of really hardwoods. There's a lot of poplar, a lot of pine, and for what we're doing here, we're making campfires with it, so that kind of wood is fine. This splitter is really awesome for that kind of wood. You know, it's fast. This stuff is sometimes a little stringy, but for the most part, it just pops apart. I believe that's what this splitter is meant for. This is also a much simpler machine. There's no hydraulic hoses. It's just a motor and these flywheels, very heavy duty parts. It'd be hard to break one of these. You know, there's a few things, you gotta lube some of this and keep this track clean, stuff like that. But for the most part, and I guess the Wolf Ridge has almost no maintenance as well, but it doesn't have a pump. They don't overheat if you're running it in hot weather, like right now it's in the 90s. They really are simple and trouble-free. So which splitter is right for you? Well, you have to decide. Take into consideration your budget, the maneuverability of the machine, the ease of splitting, the kind of wood you have, and how you burn it. For me, I wanted both. So that's about it. I think, yep, there goes Ollie. Well, that's about it for me. I just wanted to take a little time and go over some of the features of both kinds of splitters. I know some of you own one or the other already. Some of you are contemplating which to buy, and do my part to educate because I happen to have both. So I don't know what the right one for you is. Leave it in the comments. I love talking with you guys. I know a lot of you guys have opinions on what works for your scenario. And as I've been finding with a lot of these videos, there's a lot of people that have thought of things or experienced things that I never would have dreamed of. So it's very helpful. Anyways, we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.